Hello, good evening, everyone. We at Press Express welcome you in today's webinar actually, where we have some amazing personals, and today we will be addressing a very, very important yet sensitive issue, something that the world have been watching on, and I would say that today we at Press Express are very lucky that we got the opportunity to have with us some very important people, some very amazing personalities, each established in their own fields, who have made time from their busy schedule to talk to us today, share their experiences, and talk about a topic which I'm sure is going to intrigue everybody watching right now and all around the world. So before we start today's webinar, I would like to introduce today's participants in dire chronology, as well as state a formal introduction about today's topic to actually bring everybody on the same page. So we would begin the webinar shortly. We are just taking some time to allow participants and audiences to join us. So without any further ado, let us first address the topic that we will be talking about today. Now, we know that after the Second World War, this is actually the first time that European country is going through this kind of crisis, where its neighbor has invaded its borders, who before used to share a brotherly bonding. I would say that two countries who were formerly one singular entity is now under chaos and are under a form of fight that the whole world wishes would stop immediately. Also, we all are aware of the history of the bonding that these two countries had shared, as well as the modern history of Ukraine, Russia, and the close ties between them. But right now, I would say that the hearts all around the world are shattered, and the grounds are shivered with bombings, and many innocents are losing their lives through this invasion. Now, before we start, we would also like to, uh, address this our current standing on this matter, as we in from Bangladesh, we do have a very neutral perspective towards it. We stand on a neutral footing, yet we do condemn the innocent lives being lost through this war and invasion going on. So let us introduce now the participants to the webinar, starting with Mr. Zakhar Tropin, Associate Professor of International Law, Taras Shevchenko National University of Kiev.
Yeah.
Mr.
Hello.
Zakhar, are you with us? Yes.
Yeah, I'm here. Hello.
Right. So moving on, I would now like to introduce Mr. Volodymyr Korniienko, Chief Executive Officer, Sponsored Incorporation, Kiev, Ukraine.
Good day to you.
Yeah, good afternoon. So now I'd like to introduce Mr. Valery Zubarev, Advocate, Kiev City Court, Ukraine.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah, thank you for joining. Now I'd like to introduce Ms. Oleksandr Markeyevich, Engineer Electronics, Manger International Business Entity.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. And now I'd like to introduce Ms. Dr. Mridula Ghosh, International Relations Expert, Kiev, Ukraine.
Hello.
Hello. And I would like to also introduce Mr. Mahbubul Alam, private entrepreneur and activist against hate crime, Kiev, Ukraine.
Hello to everybody. Good afternoon.
Hello. And last but not the least, I would like to introduce my colleague, Mr. Nashir Uddin, joint editor of Press Express.
Hello. Good afternoon, everybody.
Hello. So, Mr. Nasir, if you would like to share a few words before we start this webinar today.
Yeah. Hello, good afternoon. Can you hear me all?
Yeah.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, clear,
Okay.
loud and clear.
As the proceedings are there in Ukraine, the unfortunate case of battlefield, we see many developments. Lives are being lost. The- okay. Okay. So in this context, we are fortunate to have these talks for the greater good of the whole world as we discuss the pros and cons. We see lots of happenings over there. Something is going. Sometimes we see something is going in favor of Ukraine. Sometimes we see something in favor of Russia. So we here in our discussion, in this particular discussion, we're not taking any side whatsoever. We are only trying to portray the real picture as is happening in Ukraine. I have a question. There has been lots of posting, talking, and criticism over the US role in the war. What's your perspective on that? My question
Dr.
is,
Mridula Ghosh, if you would answer this question for us, like start with this.
Well, I have a position. There is neutrality is good, but unfortunately, the situation that we are in, I have my position, and I will definitely think that to know the truth truth and neutrality are two different things in such situations. Yes, I honor neutrality. That's what I wanted to stress in the beginning. Now, to move on to the US role, yes, especially what happened in Afghanistan, the US role all over the world is heavily criticized, questioned, and put to test. US has been criticized in the past also, especially in relation to also Iraq, in relation to Syria, and many other movements like the Arab Spring and many other places wherever such popular mass movements took place. The US role in Ukraine was, to be frank, it was supportive, but it was not the basic, the foundational in terms of the social changes and the different revolutions that took place in Ukraine within the setup of a democratic platform. I mean, it never went away from that. In that sense, US has a strategic partnership with Ukraine for many, many years. It started since the independence of Ukraine, and it is woven with the Budapest Memorandum, where US also was one of the co-signatories of the memorandum, which, according to which Ukraine gave up its all nuclear weapons, the third largest in the world after Russia and America. So since then, it was necessary for US to be present all the time through all development programs and the assistance packages. US was instrumental in helping Ukraine through the IMF loans and the World Bank loans, economic development, and all other supportive stuff. It donated a lot of money for the development of Ukraine. Apart from supporting Israel and Egypt, Ukraine was the third recipient, at least in the middle 90s. That was the statistics. Now I jump down to the Orange Revolution time when there was a popular upheaval. It was like the Russians perceived the US as more as some kind of a force which is countering the interests of Russia here. So from there emerged a more critical role of US, and it was more told, more beaten. More, I would say, publicized. The US role has been positive in the sense of different reforms and different things, although, the human rights standards and many other things. In compared to that of Russia, it has been like, if we measure it in comparison with what Russia's role has been, it stands out a little bit, because Russia had been very much interested in Ukraine. Obviously, it's a neighboring country, and in different election interferences, we have noticed in 2004 there was one, and then the situation was managed. It was quietly managed, and Ukraine had a transition to a different government, a rerun of the elections. But in the Maidan in 2013 and 14, when there was a drastic change through very popular upheaval, and definitely Ukrainians protested because they wanted Ukraine to sign the European association agreement with the European Union, which will lead Ukraine to change its basic framework. The framework of the country, the way the things are carried out in the country, will be more of the European Union standards. And that was something contrary to what Russian leadership wanted, because then it will slowly slip out of the hands of the Russian leadership. That was the perception, which then started analyzing that the US is fomenting this, US is encouraging this. And this was very heavily promoted through the media. And as of now, it is definitely, we have seen that media is supporting Ukraine, all the mainstream media of the United States, and there may be different shades of opinion. So through different armaments, it is being supported, but there is no boots on the ground. There is no boots on the ground in its war with Ukraine. In its war with Ukraine, Russia sees behind Ukraine US standing, but US's role is limited to supporting armaments, giving political, giving informational support, and of course maybe some intelligence support. I do believe that is the limits. It has not stretched beyond it, and it has not involved NATO. This is what I can say today. So in order to be objective, we should say, yes, there is a role of US, but it is not exactly what the Russian information sources are telling.
All right, thank you so much, Mridula, for your amazing answer and response to the question. If I may ask the next question.
Oh, I would like to add something, if it is possible.
So,
as far as I see, Mr. Tropin wants to add something.
With the question, like, if you all can hear me.
No, something with connection.
So, we learned that Russia. So, if I may ask, Mr. Valery Zubarev,
Hello?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Oh, yes, now. Would you like to ask the same question?
Yeah, so my question was, we learned yesterday that Russia announced ceasefire in 2 cities. So do you feel that there's a chance of ceasefire all around the country?
Well, absolutely not. Well, I'll explain why. When Russia offers something or declares, it's a lie. In my opinion, it's they want to take a pause just to gather another force, another way to attack. That's all I have to say. So I do not believe in ceasefire all around the country, even in these 2 cities, because according to the latest news, we already have Russian forces killing people who wants to leave those cities already. And on top of it, they're already accusing Ukraine.
If it's possible, I would like to add some words about it if Valery have finished his speech.
Yes, please, yeah.
So, do I have the chance?
Valery, I think you can proceed.
Oleksandr.
Yeah, wonderful, okay. So,
Yeah,
history, yeah, what?
Yeah, so sorry. Carry on, please.
Wonderful. So history repeats itself. And as far as we can see, another insane dictator is trying to fulfill his plans. And I want to say that they only limited with the announcement of ceasefire. And as Valery told, I'm pretty sure also that they will not follow what they say. And moreover, it's the way to increase the panic within the civil people in Ukraine, because when they announced the ceasefire, Ukrainian armed forces tried to make the green humanitarian corridor to evacuate those who are in need. And after that, Russian armed forces just start the bombardment of the humanitarian, the ambulances, and they totally don't follow what they say in this matter. And I think that it's all about understanding that any kind of statements from their side should not be expected to be followed. And it's all about fake from their side. That's what I want to mention. Thank you.
Yeah, I would like to add, if it is possible, also.
Yeah, please go ahead. Add, please.
Yeah, I also would like to add the great example was yesterday when there was a primary agreement about the humanitarian passage from the Volnovakha and Mariupol, and at last moment Russian troops start to start fire, and respectively it was impossible to evacuate refugees from there. Today it will be second attempt. We hope that it will be successful. But I agree with my colleagues that Russia we have experience from Donetsk and Lugansk regions and war in Donetsk and Lugansk regions against Russian Federation from the 2014. And this experience tells us that Russian Federation are always using humanitarian corridors for military purposes, and only for the actually for military purposes. This is speaking about humanitarian passages and corridors. And another issue, your question was about the total cease of fire. I think that now, taking into account situation in Ukraine, it will be very hard to implement because it is very hard to stop population of Ukraine to fight against Russian invaders. It is hard to stop population, which sometimes with barrier hands fights with Russian troops. So, that's my point.
Right. Thank you so much, Zakhar, for your response to the matter. So yeah, if I may carry on with the next question. This question I would like to ask Ms. Oleksandr. What do you think, and how would you really describe the role of NATO's and Western countries in the conflict, in this particular conflict?
Western countries?
Yeah, Western countries. The role of NATO as well.
I think that finally they are realizing the whole dangers of the situation and dangers of Putin, because they open the borders to all our civilians without any limitation. And actually, what I think, as sooner we will stop Putin, is better for the whole world, because he will never stop the Ukrainian army. Actually, I am not the analytic and politic. I am telling like a common person, just a very emotional woman. And all of actually what make me anger all these days the most, it is a total lie that comes from Russian propaganda and how they explain everything. And Western countries, I think they also in danger. and they have no any choice just to help and support us, because Putin will never stop. If he will occupy Ukraine, he will go ahead. He is trying to recollect or to again restore the Soviet Union, but Soviet Union dead. It is the same like give the lives to the dead, something dead actually, like a zombie. Ukraine is trying to create, trying to go ahead and looking for the future. Russia is looking for the past. That is the difference. It is, it's my point of view. I am not political or something. And actually, I thankful for the Western country because now they're supporting us and doing a lot. But maybe they can more. Not I can more. But in any way, I trust and I have no any doubt that Ukraine will win. Or our nation will just eliminate. Actually, we are fighting for our survival. That is what I want to say. No any doubt. For our survival, for existing of our nation.
Right.
Yeah.
So thank you, Ms. Alexander, for your opinion. Now, I would like to draw the attention of Mr. Zakhar, if you would, like whether you share the same opinion as Ms. Alexander has just said, that the Western countries must have more involvement, or their role must increase in order to support Ukraine in this issue. Do you actually have the same view on this as well? Or do you think what they're doing so far is enough? The embargoes and the sanctions are enough?
I agree with Alexander. It's not enough. It's not enough. Of course, we feel support of Western countries, of NATO. Of course, we feel support from sanctions, provision of equipment, lethal weapon, but it's not enough. As my colleague used terms, we don't have boots of NATO and Western countries here in Ukraine. We have only support from NATO and Ukraine, from NATO and Western countries. The great support is also when we are talking about the help to our refugees, especially to Poland, who give rescue for the quantity of our citizens in this situation. But it's not enough. We are to push, and it is necessary to push NATO and Western countries to push more and more on Russian Federation to stop this aggression. Especially, and the most crucial point of the last days is the question of closing our sky. We are blessing for the closing of our sky. We are blessing NATO. We are blessing Western countries, because this is actually the matter of the main aim to close our sky is to stop Russian Federation to bomb our cities and to bomb our civilians. And if our sky will be closed with the help of Western countries or with the help of NATO, it doesn't matter. Then I think that we will have enough people. We will have enough, not enough, but we have at least equipment and weapon to fight for our freedom.
All right, thank you. Thank you for your increasing response towards the same question that we asked. I mean, so if I may ask the next question to Mr. Mahbub, moving on from the current context of discussion, I would like to now ask you, we already know from our Foreign Secretary that 28 stranded Bangladeshis of the Bangla Samriddhi ship has been taken to Romania via Moldova. As you're there, can you tell us about the situation of the whole event?
Thank you for giving me the chance to describe the whole narration. Actually, it happened, that was a normal cargo ship owned by Bangladesh government. And we became to know just after the war broke out, from one of my friend in Nikolaev, the same city where the ship was, that that ship got stuck, and we got because we had a feeling, that bad feeling, that okay, anything tragic can happen, because there were some other incidents with Romanian ships and some other ships. So we informed it to our ambassador in Poland, and then started to at least to try to evacuate the crews from the ship. But there were some legal, steps to be followed. So it took some time, and due to all bureaucratic issues and all these things. So, but when the Russian shells bombed the ship, so one crew, third engineer, he was killed, and after that, it was the situation changed rapidly, and the ministry and all the high profile people, they stepped in. So only after the casualty of one life, that was also, that they started solving the problem. So those 28 crew rest alive crews were taken to a nearest bombing shelter. They were given food, meal, and all the shelters. And after that, there were some logistic problems, and which was supposed to be needed to be solved. And then, with the help of one Bangladeshi businessman there, and also obviously with the help of the embassy, especially the ambassador in Poland, with her guidance, we could take them through the Moldova border to Romania, and all other related embassies also helped. With describing all these things, I would like to say one thing, that it's not Ukraine that, despite having a lot of rumors and a lot of fake news, lot of different type of in YouTube, in other media, use information as if Ukrainian soldiers are getting some genocide, getting involved in some genocide of Eastern Ukraine and Russian ethnic people and all these things. Actually, there is no evidence that Ukrainian soldiers did anything like that. But Russians are now attacking Ukraine. They used to say that it's their brother country, brother nation. Actually, they have 1,500 years, as you said at the beginning, that joint history. But now it seems that joint history makes, it's nothing to the Russian leaders now. So that incident, that life of one Bangladeshi engineer, it's also the evidence of the Russian aggression here in Ukraine. I have a lot of friends in Russia. So do, I think, Dr. Mridula has, other fellows who are joining here. All of us has. We frequently travel to Moscow, travel to St. Petersburg and other cities in Russia. We have really, frankly speaking, we have a lot of friends. But the things are now not a little bit more different, that after the having, bombed by Russian, I fled from Kiev. Near my house, one missile was, destroyed one building. So the thing is this, I'm getting a little bit emotional, but the thing is this, that life also, it's due to the Russian shells, Russian bombs. Anyway, it's now those crews are safe. It's a good news, but due to Russian aggression, Russian attacks, a lot of Ukrainian lives are now under threat. A lot of Bangladeshi people, those who are used to live in Kiev, in different cities, they had to flee from Ukraine to Polish border or other cities, because I personally has been involved in this evacuation plan, so that these Bangladeshi people, they can go away from Ukraine. It was a hard job, hard task, but having experience of living here for 10 years and after years and years, they had to go away without having anything with them. Just like in 71, we had to, I was a mere child then, 8 or 7 years old. We had to leave our houses, go to villages and all. The same thing is happening now here in Ukraine. And not only the Ukrainian people are leaving Ukraine, I mean, the ladies, the children, but other foreigners, they are also leaving, who are leaving. In Sumy, we have 8 Bangladeshi students and businessmen. They are living now. They are trying to leave the place. In Mariupol, there's 2 guys. In other places, a lot of guys still there. So about these 28 persons, it's the same thing that having the same problem, other guys living in other cities. So I don't know actually what to say to them, because they're calling us, they're calling the embassy, that they're literally, they're crying, they're weeping, they're shouting, just save us. But I don't know who is going to save them.
Okay.
Sorry, I got a little bit emotional, but that's a fact.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Nasir, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I want to add something.
Yeah, I would just like to make those fake blames of. Do you hear me? Yeah. Yeah, I just want to add something about my previous colleagues said about the fake blames of Ukraine about the genocide of Russian population. Yes, it is totally fake, and it is absolutely ridiculous to talk about this, having President Volodymyr Zelensky, who is Russian-speaking Jew from the Russian-speaking region, Kyiv Rig. And this is those blames about this genocide from Ukrainian side against Russian-speaking population. They are absolutely ridiculous, and it is total fake.
Okay.
Yeah, and also, I would like to say that it is a very pity situation with this Bangladesh ship, Bangladesh vessel. Yeah, of course, as I know, they are now in Romania, and I hope everything will be well, and embassy of Bangladesh will help them to return to their country.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Zakhar. Now I'd like to ask Dr. Mridula Ghosh. Can you please tell us, how do you see the case of Bangladeshis? Can you please tell us what is the situation of Bangladeshis in your eyes? Especially I'm talking about those who are stranded now in the area.
The mic is muted, AC.
Yes, I'm unmuted. Thank you. It's a very important question. I think I will put it in the context of all the stranded foreigners. Ukraine did not expect till the last moment that Russia will attack in this terrible way. It was like stabbing it from the back. Because many a time Mr. Putin said we had no intention, our soldiers are just on the border, and finally he recognized the LNR and DLNR, these republics, and so they thought, everybody thought there will be some problem over there, maybe they would have to take the other parts of the Donetsk, Luhansk, but this kind of an all-out, all-pervading, terrible war engulfing the whole country, nobody expected. Therefore, we foreigners, I mean, I include myself also, and all our Bangladeshi brothers and sisters definitely did not think that this can happen. Therefore, those who are stranded, there are people in Kiev, there are people in other cities. First of all, maybe Mahbub Bhai has a more, detailed and a person-to-person account, but I think the whole list of the people living here, the embassy has it, or there are people stranded. It is never possible to count everybody. So I do believe that it is really there. It is really very scary, because if people are stranded and the occupational army, they come, they indiscriminately shoot at people. An 18-month-old baby was killed. So they can come across these indiscriminate shootings. And then it is going to be very, very bad they will lose lives, and nobody will be accountable for that, because they are not accountable. And it will come under I would say the war crimes, because you're not supposed to target civilians, but they are doing it. They are shelling residential buildings. there are people hidden under the rubbles. So I do believe that, until and unless we really reach out to those people, at least to find out a safe and smooth passage, which is getting very difficult, I don't know, I'm really very wary. And also, of course, there are situations when the army atrocities especially starts, and if it is an occupying army, an aggressive army, they might have cases of racism also, which is also a case that has to be put in mind. So those will come under war crime as well.
Right. Thank you for your amazing response, Mridula. So, if I have the permission to ask the next question from Nasir Bhai. So, from the amazing responses of Mr. Mahbub and Zakhar and Dr. Mridula, we know about the situation regarding Bangladeshis. Now, if I may draw the attention of Mr. Volodymyr, the grounds are shivered with bombings right now, and innocents are being killed. So, could you give us an idea about the grim situation going on over there, an account of your version of what's going on there?
War is going on in Ukraine, and as I told before, history repeats itself. And I will tell some words about the previous questions and then proceed with the explanation what happens in Ukraine. I'm pretty sure that Western countries haven't involved in the conflict, even in the sanctions way, before the invasion itself, because they haven't expected that Ukraine will fight back so good, the so-called second army in the world. And I'm pretty sure that even Russians haven't expected that they will have such a tremendous losses in all cities. They haven't managed to capture any city for 8 days, and now they have some results. But I'm pretty sure that our armed forces will counterattack them. And only after that, for the third or fourth day, the European Union managed to close SWIFT from Russia. So they haven't expected that Russia will not succeed in this war. And that's the first point. The second point is that we really need to close the sky. And if NATO will not do that in the first way, I mean, the entering the war with their anti-aircraft rockets and vessels, they can provide us the aircrafts and anti-aircrafts, tanks, and etc., to our army, so they can strengthen the situation. But unfortunately, they haven't provided them by now, even by now. And another thing I want to mention is that Ukraine and Bangladesh is very far from each other, but they have many things common. And I want to mention that Bangladeshi people understand the meaning of the words freedom and what it means to choose their own way of life. Because you also had the liberation war on 1971, and you succeeded in it. And I'm pretty sure that even now, Ukraine faces and fights back the new Nazi nation in the face of Putin. And I hope that international community will fight against this neo-Nazi again and unite with Ukraine to be victorious against this modern threat. It's not a threat to Ukrainian nationality. It's a threat to the whole world, because as my colleague already mentioned, he will not stop with Ukraine, because his vivid ambitions is unstoppable. And if someone will not stop him, he will not stop by himself. And as for the situation in Ukrainian cities, they are bombed everywhere, and they try to make civil people panic. They make a bombardment over the schools, over the shelters, over the civil people. They had the information that the main railway station of Ukraine in Kiev, trying to make the green corridor for the children and women who try to go to the Western Ukraine, was a relatively safe place, but they tried to bombard it. And thanks to our anti-aircraft forces, they haven't managed to do that. So that's what I want to mention about the situation. It's all about war. It's not a conflict. It's war, all-out war, and Ukraine gives. And I'm really proud to be Ukrainian. I'm proud that Ukraine united. Everyone do everything to bring Ukraine faster to our victory. And I'm sure that we will kill the snake of neo-Nazi Russia.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Volodymyr, for your version. Now I would like to take a question to Valery Zubarev.
To add something about the speech of Michael.
Yeah. Okay, please.
Yeah, so
okay.
actually our cities are under the attack. We are bombed by Russian aircraft, by Russian missiles. Yeah, and I'm sorry, can you mute the microphones?
Yeah, Mr. Zakhar.
I'm just asking to mute microphones because there is some kind of reflection.
I think Nashir should turn off the microphone.
Okay.
Hello. Can you hear me?
I hear you, but I am asking to mute microphones. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. So our cities are under the attack, and our cities, I absolutely would like to repeat what Volodya says about the bombing by aircrafts and by missiles of our cities. My mom is in Chernigov, and she can't leave from Chernigov because there is army troops of Russian Federation around Chernigov, and she is scared. Because she is under the attack by bombs, by missiles, or from aircrafts of Russian Federation. Yesterday, one of the pilots of Russian Federation, one of the jets of Russian Federation was shot down, and one of the pilots was captured. And we have videos of his interviews in which he directly says that his aim of attack was civilians and city. Chernigiv city. What is much more interesting, this pilot, one of the pilots who destroyed Aleppo in Syria, and we have a lot of photos of his participation in those conflicts. The same pilots doing the same job here in Ukraine. They're destroying our cities, they're destroying our civilians. And now we have direct evidences of this, witnesses of these pilots. Yeah, thank you.
Now I would like to ask a question to Valery Zubarev. Valery, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. We just came to know about a statement from the Russian president, Mr. Putin. He recently warned, if NATO imposes no-fly zone over Ukraine, it will be considered as direct participation in the war. How do you see this?
Well, we already have a war, first of all. And after 8 years, we tried to warn Western countries to impose sanctions on Putin and Russia. They didn't listen. So the war will escalate, and it's only in interest of Western countries, also NATO countries, to impose no-fly zone over Ukraine. And by making those threats, we have to acknowledge that many families of those Russian oligarchs, Russian people, deputies, Russian governments are living in Western countries and have business in Western countries. So I only see it is another threat to please hold me or I start the nuclear war or something, which I do not believe. And if Western countries are so afraid now, well, we'll see what happened later, after 8 years of warnings. So this is my opinion, and I fully support that a no-fly zone should be imposed. Or if they cannot, as they say, send, say, American or NATO fighters to fight in Ukrainian skies, they can give us fighters so we can fight ourselves, or give us anti-air defense, proper anti-air defense, which we can use. No, this is my opinion, which is, I think, will solve the situation and will help Ukraine dramatically.
Mr. Valery, I do have another question.
Yes.
Okay. Ukraine seeks security guarantees from the West. Do you think it will be effective at all?
Could you come again, please?
Yeah, I repeat. Ukraine seeks security guarantees from the West. Do you think it will be effective at all? I'm talking about the security guarantee Ukraine is seeking from the West.
Well, I don't know. I think at the moment, the best security is Ukraine itself. So what securities can basically West provide for Ukraine? They didn't want to accept Ukraine into NATO because I think, in my opinion, they didn't want to fight Russia themselves. So what they did, basically, they give us weapons so we can fight Russia ourselves. Their troops' involvement without their blood on their hands, so the Ukrainian can handle this task. So I think this is the main security now is Ukraine for them, not West for Ukraine.
Yeah, and if it is possible, I would like to say.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
I would like to say that it's not time for guarantees. It's time now. It's time to give us weapon and just to give us equipment to protect ourselves, because we have war. In time of war, it is absolutely impossible to talk about any guarantees. We are to defend ourselves, and we are asking Western countries to give us possibilities to protect ourselves, give us weapon to close our sky. That's the point. About the guarantees, we can talk in future. Maybe. But of course, those guarantees are to be serious guarantees, not like in Budapest Memorandum, which we received after the giving of nuclear weapon to Russian Federation after the refusing from nuclear weapon. So actually, without no actual guarantees. But I think that now, after all this situation, guarantees are to be real, with real possibilities to receive help from Western countries in this situation. So that's the point.
I would like to add some words that I agree with Mr. Tropin that guarantees is nothing for us, because Budapest Memorandum showed us that even the participants can invade us and another participants will not help us in the military way they prescribed it in the Budapest Memorandum. So I think that the best guarantee of our security is strengthening army and joining the NATO alliance in the future. And we will enter it only if we succeed in this particular war. And to succeed it, we have to show from our side the strengths, which we are already doing, and commitment and actions, real actions from the NATO side, they haven't done yet. But I do hope that they will do it. So providing the aircrafts, like my colleagues told before, and making any kind of no guarantees, but it's all about actions. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Volodymyr, Mr. Valery, and Mr. Tropin for your amazing inputs towards the question asked by Nasir Bhai. Like, if I may add and draw an inference from what Mr. Valery had said before, by rephrasing some of the inputs he had said, like, I would like to ask Miss Dr. Mridula, actually, do you think that Ukraine is actually a sufferer of the conflict between West and Russia? Would you share your opinion on this, please?
It's told all over the world like that it is a torn between the West and the East. I would not put it straight like that. I would rather calibrate it a little bit and ask you to focus your attention to the needs of Ukraine first, not that of Russia, not that of the West. Let us focus on Ukraine. What is Ukraine, doing? What are its priorities? It has a right to exist, its statehood, to protect its democracy, to protect its sovereignty. So therefore, the focus should shift from this big power gamble to the needs of the Ukrainian state and its people. In keeping that in mind, we will see a historical aspect has been that Russia was acting as a colonizer to Ukraine. I'll not be afraid of putting the word like that because its language, its culture, everything, even though it was called a brother, but there was a very serious colonizing effect during the Tsarist times. And what Mr. Putin wants to return to is not the Soviet Union, because Soviet Union had a very different constitution, and the constitution gave rights to the republics to secede, to organize a referendum and get away from the Soviet Union. That was not there in the Russian Empire. And he wants to revive a Russian empire where only the Russian ethnic, the Russian culture dominates. Even inside Russia, it's not the Russians that are in the majority. There are a lot of other nationalities living in Russia. The world never questions these things. And I think it is time to look very deeply into these issues. Therefore, what you asked me is that Ukraine is not a pawn game. It is being portrayed as such, but Ukraine has established itself, and 10 days of resistance is proving it. And I think there has been a terrible criticism also of the West from the president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, who said that, you don't close our skies, we die, and you will be responsible for each and every death from now on, because the air power supremacy was there. Ukraine didn't arm itself against Russia. All the lame logic of Ukraine being a threat, Ukraine being close to NATO, were all just lies being spread to justify an aggression and annex territories more than Crimea, more than Donbass, to totally swallow Ukraine and destroy it as a state. Because without Ukraine, Russia cannot establish itself as an empire. And that is the very, very different paradigm that President Putin's ideology. It is not even the Russian state's ideology. Russian people even may not share it. So it's a very interesting, it's a very threatening thing for the whole world. It is like we are having the revival of the Third Reich. I get emotional because ideologically it is absolutely inconsistent. When you say denazification for Ukrainians, when they have had proper elections, and for the past 20 years, Ukraine has had, 5 presidents have been changed, and there are free media operating. All elements of a democracy is there. So there is no Nazification in Ukraine. Militarization. Ukraine is not militarized. It doesn't even have the power air power that Russia has. So what are we talking about? In these cases, I believe there has been a very different portrayal of Ukraine. And of course, Ukraine is treated as an object sometimes, but I would say that many of the Western countries, they are hesitant, and that is a wrong thing to do right now, I think. I also would say that non-Western nations who have the power to challenge Russia should come ahead and start doing that. Like the Westerns have boycotted through different, sanctions by economic boycott, embargo, and other things. I think this should come from other parts of the world also, because the precedent that we have is a big state bullying a small state, which is impermissible in if we construct or even reconstruct any security architecture, a modern security balance in the world. What we had from the United Nations, the Big Five, they were discussing and they will give veto. So that system, we can see it's not working. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Mridula, for your amazingly putting up the question that I asked. Picking up from some of the remarks made by you, I would like to now ask Mr. Tropin one important question. Now, how would you really describe the role of the Ukrainian president, Volodymyr Zelensky, his role in the conflict? How is he handling the whole situation? If you would like to add, please.
Yeah, I think that the only words which can describe is that he is doing great job. He's doing great job, and I think that the whole nation now is uniting. Not even is united, but united against, united around him, united around him. Yeah, we had quantity of political struggles, political deliberations before this, but now facing the aggression, facing the invaders, our president showed himself as great leader, and I think that all nation united around him to struggle with this invasion. So he's doing great job in this situation.
Even those people who haven't voted for him during the presidential elections, like me, I voted for another candidate. For now, everybody supports our presidents because there is no time for political struggles, like Ms. Tropin said. It's all about being united. Yeah, so everybody unites. Political powers unite. There is no opposition in our political powers and government. It's everybody united, and it's really, really good. Really good. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, and now I would like to ask a question. I have two questions now. One for Oleksandr and another for Mr. Mahbubul Alam. First one is to Oleksandr. Can you hear me?
Do you hear me?
Okay.
Do you hear me?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I can hear you clearly. Thank you. Thank you. So would you please tell us, was it a right decision for Ukraine to join the EU? What's your take on this?
Unmute the microphone.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Now it's okay.
Okay. I think that we have no any other choice, just a European choice, because it is a power of law, democracy. Actually, what is better? Maybe it is not the democracy. Maybe is not the perfect system, but is the best now. Actually, what other choice could be? Back to the Soviet Union. Actually, it is a country of lie and fake. It is very difficult to live in the total lie. difficult for your brain, for your soul, if you are always lying. I think Ukraine had no any other choice, just a democracy and the power of law and so on. What else? What another choice could be? I don't know. Soviet Union. I remember, actually, I was born in the Soviet Union. I started in the Soviet school. Actually, we also lived in the system of lie. People were, country was rich, people were poor. There were a lot of plants, but most of them produced the weapons. We couldn't produce normal TV, normal furniture, a normal car, just weapons. And the country was rich, but every family, separate families, almost all of them, we were poor. We get minimum just for surviving. I don't know, maybe from the side of the third countries, or from the countries who lived, from the people who didn't live in the Soviet Union, it looks like very interesting and very powerful country who created some balance between the Soviet Union, America, and so. But what about people who lived in this system? Maybe for other countries it was good, but for people who lived inside the system, we couldn't we couldn't travel. We couldn't see how people live in other countries. We just yes, maybe we were happy also, just because we didn't know how it is possible to live, how life could be. Actually, we were happy with our minimum, but I I don't know if it is happiness to live in some in vacuum. No, I think yes, we have chosen European direction because we have a common history also, and Ukraine is a very ancient country. Actually, the most in Kiev city we have the cathedral. We're proud of it's our heart of the city, Sophia Cathedral. It was created in 11th century. We have a very long history. And all this fake that Putin is telling now, sometimes I think that it is that I can't accept and even understand. The total fake and total lie, the empire of lie. We have no choice because mentally we are European people. That's all.
Can I add some words to this speech, of Oleksandr?
Now I would like to
can I add
take my next question to Mr. Mahbubul Alam.
Okay.
Mr. Mahbubul Alam, can you hear me?
Yeah, but Mr. Tropin wanted to add something. Would you please allow him?
Okay, sure. Please.
I just want to add to words that were that made Alessandra, that actually you asked about European Union, but it's not a matter of European only, European Union. It is actually some kind of national choice, civilizational choice of Ukraine. We have two routes. One route, it is former Soviet route. The difference between these two routes is as follows. In one route, the state is first and the personality is the second. This is Soviet Union approach. And European approach is personality is first and state is the second. And actually, in this situation, when Ukraine doesn't want to come back to the approach of Soviet Union, our only option is to come back to our historical tradition, when the personality is the first and state is the second. And actually, we are confirming this by 20 years of our 30 years of our more than 30 years of our independence. That we are European country, we made European choice, we are sharing European values. One of the most important of which is freedom of individual, and respectively, it's not only a matter of European Union; it is a matter of choice of European values by Ukraine. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Zakhar. Thank you. I have one final question to Mr. Mahbubul Alam. Recently, a CBS News reporter, Charlie D. Agata, called Ukraine relatively civilized, relatively European compared to Iraq and Afghanistan cases. His statement prompted swift backlash on social media and netizens saying it's racist behavior. What's your take on that?
It's a very tough question in this situation, you know, because we have been passing through all the historical events in recent days. So if someone, I don't know that, I saw that report, but I have no idea what kind of people she or he is. So I'm not going to make any comment on his accountability or on his personal, philosophy or personal, whoever he is or what's his inside view. I know that there had been always compared that, okay, especially in internet and social media, a lot of criticism is there that even in Bangladesh, I saw a lot of Bangladesh, India and our region, Asian region, a lot of criticism that, okay, when Afghanistan was invaded on other countries, nobody said nothing like that. So one European country is being attacked by another one European country. So why bother? You know, it's their matter. This sort of philosophy, this sort of view also there. But the thing is this, whenever there is a person like Trump also, you know, so anybody can say anybody. There's no man is, you know, in maybe it's a, you know, the whole statement, the whole report was a little bit annoying. I said, sure, in minimum, if I can, what I can say. Obviously, the criticism came out throughout the world. I understand. I can realize. I can try to understand the situation, because being an, you know, by born a Bangladeshi, I also feel like sometimes that, okay, there is sometimes double standard. But with Ukrainian, now the situation is not like that. I'd rather put in a different shape now. These two. No, I'd rather not make any parallel in this aspect.
All right,
I know that I know the thing is this. Yeah, it was, I think, not a decent comment from his side. At least what that can be surely criticized and condemnable. But
okay,
the things, the sufferings Ukraine is having, it should not be taken under the same, you know, same way that, okay, Afghan or other people, I feel for them. I really felt for them when he's Syrian, because I have a lot of friends, Arabian friends, Afghan friends. So when they suffer, I also feel for them. But it doesn't mean that if they suffer by someone, and Ukraine also have to suffer, because Ukraine is not, not responsible for those sufferings which occurred then. It's a global politics, global things. Sometimes it's going to be for American political steps. Sometimes it's Soviet or Russian political steps. we remember Aleppo, what happened. Also, same thing happened in different countries also.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe my
right, thank you so
remarks are
much.
a little bit chaotic,
May I
but
please add to it?
just yeah, I think
please.
Mridula, you can explain something.
Yeah, and also Volodymyr afterwards. Yeah, please.
Yeah, thank you very
Dr.
much.
Mridula, you first.
I will not mince my words. I will not be so politically correct. I will say it is an openly racist statement. There is nothing relatively civilizational, relatively better like this. You can talk about weather, like it is relatively rainy, relatively hot, relatively cold. But so far as the countries and populations, this is extremely discriminatory parlance. And I think the reporter who did it should issue a public apology at the least. And things should be taken care of very carefully. These kinds of hate speech should not be tolerated. We have a lot of hate speech when we have a war. Language suffers a lot when you have such terrible circumstances. So I think it has been a rather racist comment. Sorry.
So
yeah,
Volodymyr, you wanted to say something?
You spoke more perfectly than I myself.
Thank you. I want to add that war have no race, have no skin color, have no language, have no religion. War have only tears, suffers, and war face of cry. And that is my main point. And Ukraine always stood with all nations who struggled within the war conflicts. Our nation never attacked nobody within our more than 1,500 years history. And the main statement is that it's wrong to say that something differs in our country or in another one. War is always about the suffering. So that's what I want to add.
Your time and for the amazing answers. I mean, we are towards the end of our show today, and we would first like to thank our audiences who have been with us up until now. And also, we had some interesting questions which we piled up from audience survey. And today we're really proud that we had some very good responses from our amazing participants today. So before we end this show, I would like to ask, okay, so can I ask Mr. Mahbub to actually have some closing remarks on today's webinar? What you feel we have shared, the answers that we got to wrap up the webinar today.
Okay, thank you for giving me a chance to conclude. We are in a real and tough time. As you said in the beginning of the program, that after Second World War in Europe, such crises, such wars, humanitarian catastrophic situation raised. So we, as a normal people, I am a normal citizen, normal father of a daughter. I always want to live in peace. So our idea was of these questionnaires or these discussions were just to put in front of the whole audience, in front of the other people, to picturize the real situation over here. Also, at the same time, what Volodymyr said, Volodya said, and other people said, Dr. Mridula Ghosh said, that we condemn any sort of misinterpretation of any speeches, any rhetoric, words, or any racial or fake information or racial statements. So what we need, Ukraine and Kiev as a city is a very nice place, beautiful place. So everybody, so that we live once again in the same place, I understand it will be very hard to do because a lot of ruins, lot of cities are being destroyed. So let's hope that it ends as soon as possible. I don't know how it may happen, but at least let us hope so. And with this, I would like to end my, hope for the best. As I always used to say, John Lennon's once music that I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one.
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. Mahbub, on your amazing closing remarks. I mean, today, towards the end of the show, first, I would like to thank all the participants from the bottom of my heart for their time and for sharing their experiences and for answering our questions with some amazing responses. Once again, I'd like to continue from what Nasir Bhai had said, that today our motive was not to portray a one-sided story or to pick a side, but to actually discover and explore through some raw and real information from experiences, from first-hand understanding of what is going on. So, we at Press Express, we have a slogan that we would love to dig information beyond news, and that's exactly what we tried to do today, because through our questions, we wanted to see through the eyes of our participants, find some information, what is going on. And just like today, tomorrow, and every day, Press Express will try to bring to the audiences raw and authentic information and findings of information. Also, we would like to pray and hope that the innocent lives in Ukraine and Russia are saved and no more pointless bloodshedding should go on, and that tomorrow we wake up to a brighter day, and we wake up to peace and lovely war-free moment. So once again, thank you all for joining with us, the audiences, for making our webinar so lively and vibrant. And I would like to end by thanking our participants. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.